We Talk is a production of BFAC On Air.
Welcome back to We Talk.
We Talk.
Where Dominic and Jenna,
we talk.
We talk.
And sometimes we sing.
Sometimes we do. It's much better when Jenna does.
Well.
We just talked to Shaun Johnson.
Shaun Johnson.
Of the Shaun Johnson Big Band Experience.
Yeah.
And what an incredible guy.
Oh my goodness.
Such an easy conversation.
Shaun was fabulous. Also, he has nice glasses if you are watching this podcast, which is such a funny phrase to say.
You can watch.
You can watch it. He has very nice glasses too, but he was a very nice guy, easy guy to talk to. He had a lot of great things to say, and it was just a very natural conversation.
Yeah, very interesting. You know, we get artists in, we talk to them about who they are, what they do, and a lot of times, it's always, I'm a musician. I've always been a musician. I went to school for a musician, or I left high school and went on to become a musician right away. That is not his journey.
Story. No.
Yeah.
Which was not what I was expecting.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a humble, great guy who started out trying to be, I won't say it. We'll tell him what he was. Mystery. And then went into a cappella, and then kind of almost happened upon this big band experience thing through holiday things. And he has an Emmy Award, and this interview goes to show that you can't plan your life.
Right. That's good. Ooh, look at you.
Yeah,
Dominic.
I mean, doesn't it?
It's true. You don't know what's coming.
Yes. And if you authentically follow your path and you become what comes down your path and you burn the bridges you need to burn, and kindly. That's you'll hear about that.
The key is being open to it, but still being true to yourself.
True to yourself.
Yeah.
That is correct. Kindly true to yourself.
Yeah.
So
and be kind to yourself, everybody.
You should all be kind to yourself. Yeah. Jenna, what was your favorite part?
I loved hearing him talk about, his journey. His whole thing was his journey, but hearing how he got into what he's doing, I think was fun to hear. And honestly, I feel like I continually find inspiration from people.
Yes.
And so there were a few things that he said where I'm like, yes, you know what? I need to kind of be more like that, or to kind of take that step the way that he did for for a variety of things. It can fall into anything. So
Well, Shaun Johnson Big Band Experience at the Batavia Fine Arts Center, September the 9th. So if you're listening to this the day it was released,
it's today.
It's today. If not, sorry you missed it. But check him out somewhere else, sometime else. And tickets can be gotten at
BataviaFineArtsCenter.org.
And center is spelled
CENTRE.
Because we fancy.
Because we fancy.
Like that. That's right. Or the phone number 630-937-8930. I'm Dominic.
I'm Jenna.
And welcome to the next episode while we talk to
Shaun Johnson.
All right. I have a dying question for you.
A dying question?
I mean, it is. Okay, so I went on your social media stuff, and I saw this one post, and I'm not going to say the name of the corporation that you were taking someone to a date night on, but I, too, have a fascination with home improvement stores, and we find ourselves there all the time. Is this a love of yours?
This is a love of mine, but really it's because of my wife.
Oh.
Because my wife is a designer and an architect.
Yeah.
And her dad was like a big contractor like in Hawaii and all different places. And so when those two talk, oh my goodness. So I have learned to love those home improvement stores.
Do you do any projects yourself?
I am learning from both of them. We just tiled our bathroom, which I know is thrilling, but we did with subway tile. And we're doing a pattern on our floor now with wood, which they said couldn't be done. And her dad's like, of course you can. So that's what we're doing now.
Fantastic. I love to dabble in the home improvement. Finishing of basements. I redid my whole kitchen in the pandemic.
Come on over.
Right? That's what everyone did, I think. Right?
Yeah.
It's so funny to me, like, what excites us now that we're in, like, our older ages. Like, now that I'm 40, I'm like, tiling, yes, tell me more.
Okay, I will. No, I'm kidding. I won't. No, so you are truly a fascinating individual. And my journey with you don't even know this. My journey with you started years ago, before the pandemic, when I saw you at a conference perform in a tiny, you know how you go to these conferences and there's these little rooms and you perform. And I was just blown away by it. And
thank you.
And finally now, post-pandemic, you're here. That was always on the plan. But right after that conference, pandemic hit, everything shut down, and it just took a while to keep going with everything.
Absolutely.
That's
and
awesome.
I know what conference you're talking about because I was like, oh my goodness, this is like a very tiny room. And it's always great when there's a lot of people because it's just easier for me. But when it's a small room, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to see this person looking at their watch or yawning or whatever they're going to do.
I would much rather be talking to or engaging with a group of 1,000 people than 17
but
or
you know
22.
What, those those smaller, closer performances are always my favorite ones to attend, though, because I feel like I'm there with you, and it just feels intimate and just so close. They're always my favorite.
Yes. Well, Shaun, you can work a crowd.
Thank you.
Like nobody else. And the other thing that's amazing is your breadth of work from a cappella to big band. You have CDs released. I believe
what's a CD?
What's a
Right?
CD? Well, I shouldn't say that. Did I just date myself?
Oh, no. We actually brought back cassettes.
Did you?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. What about vinyl?
We have vinyl, too.
All right. See that? See, I'm not surprised by that. And I believe even some awards.
Yes, we do have a few.
Yeah. Tell us about the awards that you've got. I don't want to steal your thunder on that.
Well, it's funny because for a music group, we did win an Emmy.
I know,
which is interesting. It was for music in a show, for an arrangement, and the big band. You're right. I started that a bit later than the a cappella portion.
Yeah,
and I just started it to raise money for charity, and was only thinking we were going to do a few holiday shows.
Right.
And we did those for a couple of years. I would just see the guys. A year later, I'd see the guys and the women that play with us. And then just right before the pandemic, we were like, oh, we should do this for real. So we started doing a few shows, and it kind of took off. And then our first album landed on the top 5 of Billboard.
Right.
Yeah. So we were really excited. That was just totally the people that support you.
Yeah.
I think people are always like, oh, you need millions of fans. But for us, it's like, no, you just need a bunch of fans that are really enthusiastic about you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you can have 1 million fans and only 5,000 interact with you.
It's like that quote. There's a quote, I'd rather be 7 people's favorite thing than 7,000 people's 7th favorite thing.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I mean?
So true.
So what is your musical journey? Where did you start going all the way back? What do you remember first performing and loving, and how did it evolve?
I and my little sister used to perform. I grew up many places, but part of the time in Iowa.
Okay.
And we would perform at county fairs. And we had no music because none of us could play an instrument. So we would literally just like put the microphone all the way down. I think my sister had the cuteness factor going. And so we would do that. And I would sing all the time. My mom said, oh man, it just annoyed us to no end because you never stopped humming. So I'd be like eating. You know. So I'm sure because right now I'd be like, oh my gosh, how did you survive? But we just listened to a lot of different styles of music. My parents both sang, you know, like at weddings and things like that. And I was never going to be a singer. I was going to be a lawyer because a lot of my family is.
Very similar. Right?
Yes, very similar. So I was going to go to Notre Dame, the law school there. And then I had some friends that said, well, you want to join our a cappella group? There's 4 of us, and we've been doing this for like a couple of years, but we would like a 5th person. And we know you like singing. But I had quit sort of singing in college. I was like, what are you ever going to do with music? So I'm like, I got to buckle down and become a lawyer. So I hadn't sang for a long time, but I did love singing, and I sang my whole life in, you know, show choirs and all those things in high school.
Jenna has a history with music too.
I do. I do. I went to school for music, and I
admire you.
Well, okay. Well, hold on. I went to school for music until I didn't. So I switched to English because I was terrified of doing my senior recital. I just couldn't fathom it.
So you switched majors because of that?
I did.
Oh my goodness.
I know. I regret it now. I wish I would have finished it. But at the time, I was like, there is no possible way Jennifer Carpenter can do the senior recital.
Yes.
Wow.
But I have a similar story to that. Mine's nowhere near as glamorous as yours. You actually made it to it, right? So I was in 5th grade, I remember, and my music teacher was telling us, in order to get this degree in music and become a teacher, you had to do a recital in front of all these people. And I was like, nope, I'm not performing in front of anyone.
You're both out.
Went on to get a degree in theater. And
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Isn't that crazy?
Goodness.
Sometimes the world ends up finding you and dragging you along. See?
I think so too. Yeah. And I was in all that music stuff, but when I got to college, like I said, I wasn't going to be a music major or anything. I was like political science and, those kind of things. So,
Nice.
So was it Tonic Sol-Fa that brought you back to music? Is that what brought you back, or was there something else?
Yeah, because one of my roommates was in the original sort of incarnation. Yep. And after a couple of years, though, the funny thing is it ended up just being me and 3 other guys. We switched from 5 to 4. And that's where everything has happened. Like those 4 guys that weren't in the original. Because it sort of took off on the college circuit. And I think like 2 or 3 years, we had done 300 shows a year.
Yeah.
One time my landlord said, you've only been here a week the year, so you might want to, do you really want to rent this place? And I ended up being the only person left was me.
Yeah.
Which I never had thought about. But everybody in the first couple of years left. They were like, I didn't know it was going to be this crazy, or I was married, or I have kids, whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the 4 of us that have been together ever since then, it's not changed.
What's that traveling life like for you?
It's like for us, it's for men, so it's just like a band of brothers, kind of.
Yeah.
But you do everything together. You're sharing. Especially when we started, we were always at someone's house, or at the alumni center, and it was always like rock paper scissors for who had the cot, and just driving around.
You get to sleep on the rocks in the corner,
and who has to drive at 2 a.m, and it was just, And then as it goes, we started building our own career and just saying, hey, we're going to do ticket sales. We're not going to rely so much on people, and sort of start choosing. Because if we're going to have families, we can't do 300 shows.
Right.
And so it just kind of grew in that way. And it tended to be more in the Midwest because if you went to California, it was like a 3-day thing.
Right.
Or longer. And so people are always like, why don't you come to, and we've been to every state, but they're like, why don't you tour regularly in, Washington? It was like, well, it takes like a week.
And there's one of each of us.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's just, we all get along. We've definitely had our times too when, you're fighting with your best friend. And that's how it works. And then, like I said, a couple of years ago, started this big band, and the guys were very supportive, because I think some people were like, are you going solo? No, I'm literally doing this for something fun, something different, and adventures, because Tonic Sol-Fa, we kind of do similar theaters, similar places.
Right.
Yeah.
And big band, it was like all of a sudden I was doing festivals and clubs and going overseas, and it was just a whole different thing for me. So it was super exciting.
How did that fusion happen in your big band style that you do? How did you get to that?
I didn't. People are always like, oh, did you love big band? I didn't really know what big band was. In that, yes, I am familiar with, some of the artists. But I didn't really follow it. I wasn't like a big jazz person. But I did realize that the things I did like all tended to be that. Like later, someone would say, well, that's big band. I'm like, oh.
Right.
And so even now with a small big band, because I needed to raise money for charity, so I can't bring 40 people, plus the logistics would be insane.
Right.
Until we get, a tour manager, anybody out there.
Come on. Yeah.
So, no, it was just, I always liked that kind of music, I guess, even though I didn't know it.
Right.
And I just liked the passion of it and the crooner sort of. I liked the arrangements, which I didn't really realize, the horns. And so it's just such a positive music, I feel like.
Yes.
I totally agree.
I agree.
You feel uplifted. You feel like you've been transformed. I I have to say, I don't know that it's entirely the music style. I think it's your delivery as well when you're doing it.
It is definitely the delivery. Like, well, and as big band
charisma
leaders,
on the stage.
the charisma,
not only with the performers and the audience.
My head is already sort of big, and now it's getting bigger.
It's a good thing we don't have doors in our studio. Everyone, you can't see our studio. There's no doors, just curtains. We just spread those curtains as wide as we need to.
Well, and it's so interesting too because I've always been a huge fan of big band. Like I was that little 6-year-old who was like, "Where's the horn section?" In music. But big band has made such a comeback within the last so many years, and taking modern songs and turning them into that big band feel, and it does something different to that song where you're just like, I don't know. For me, it feels like you're in it more.
Yes. Well, my family loves the Spider-Man version.
Yeah, sure. Who doesn't?
Right, of course, right? And I will say, you also have your own original music that you create too. When Jenna and I were doing research for this interview, we loved Multiplied by 2.
Oh, thank you.
We absolutely love it. Jenna does some music video type stuff with what she does, and she said she's got to do a music video.
I know.
Jenna.
I wasn't expecting Dominic to say that.
Are you blushing,
I started
Jenna?
blushing a little bit.
I'm sorry.
That's cool. No, that's kind of you.
So tell me about what you look for when you're creating your own music. What's that process for you as an artist?
Yeah, I lived in Nashville for a while, and there they have songwriting sessions. And so I got to meet a lot of people, but it's funny because until you find like the right person, I feel like you're just meeting nice people.
Yes.
And it was hard for me because I tend to just write things on my own. It takes me a long time. I'm just not like, write a Jason Aldean hit in 2 minutes.
Right.
And I wasn't really writing that style. And so I think to answer your question, it just, whatever comes out, I'm always writing songs. And I do write with different musicians and different people.
Right.
I wouldn't say it's always big band. I mean, it just comes out what comes out. And sometimes I just like the song. And I'm sure people are confused at points like, what is this? This is a pop song or a gospel song or a blues tune. But I just put it out there anyway under that umbrella because I feel like it can kind of fit if it has emotion or if it reaches people in some way.
Yeah.
So I definitely am working on originals all the time. I put some in, and if they don't connect, I'm not a person who's like, oh, I'm going to keep cramming this down your throat.
Sure.
I'm like, well, they just didn't like it. There was a song I had written a long time ago called Marching Soldiers. It just came out of the blue. I liked it so much, but whenever I perform it, I kind of felt like people were like, it's fine. But it's still like one of my favorate songs, but I don't do it. It's just didn't.
It's like the painter who never actually sold a painting in their lifetime. However, and then all of a sudden, later on, it resonates
You're like,
in a
wow,
different
this was
way.
great.
Right?
Yeah.
So don't you give up on that.
What are you
song
saying
yet.
exactly, Dominic?
I'm saying don't give up on it.
I thought you were like, when you die,
it's
gonna be big.
That's a big
It's
song.
gonna be great. So
Like,
don't even worry.
My 5-year-old's going to be happy about this. But
So what advice would you have? So we know your journey now, right? So you were supposed to be a lawyer, great lawyer. You would have been fantastic in the courtroom, I think.
Charisma.
That charisma. It's
boy.
the same thing, right?
you guys are new press agents.
What advice would you give to young people who might be listening to a podcast and maybe they are contemplating, they like music, they kind of do it. Do they do it? Do they not do it?
Maybe they're terrified of doing their senior recital.
Maybe they are. Maybe they're in college and they don't want to do that recital and they're about to drop it all.
Go do the recital. No. That's my only advice.
Yes, there we go.
No, I think it turned out good for you to not do the recital. I think you're all right.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
That's a good question. I mean, you hear always like, oh, just get out there and do your thing. I mean, I would say that right now there aren't as many gatekeepers. And so you do have a chance if you want to do TikTok or you want to do a YouTube video or you want to travel in a van or if you don't have any of those things, start your own social media for heaven's sake. I mean, you literally
Especially
can do
nowadays.
anything. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that is positive. Like you can do your journey. Everyone always like, how did you get to do this? Or how did you do this? How did you do this? It's like, it doesn't really matter to say to somebody because you're going to do it different. I mean, there's not an artist I know who followed the exact same path. I mean, some people it was a lightning strike. Some people it was just 20 years of work. Some people it was one random song on a commercial. Some it was just crazy things. So I think the lightning strike in some ways. But the funny thing I usually tell people in like confidence is I would burn bridges personally. Like, everyone says never burn a bridge because it'll come back. I feel like that sort of paralyzes you because there's been so many times where someone's like, well, you have to go do that. You have to go do that. That person's really important. You got to go do that. It never turns out great because it's usually not you.
Yeah.
And I can see that in so many situations where I would have said, burn the bridge. I don't mean be mean to somebody. Yeah. I just mean sometimes to say, I guess it's saying no. Yeah. And saying this isn't going to come back and haunt me.
Yes. You're really just talking about authenticity.
Probably.
Like being your own authentic artist and staying to that. And I think there's a lot of good in remaining authentic to who you are.
Yeah.
If you want to go out and be that artist.
Yeah, so burn a few bridges, people.
Yeah, burn a few.
Burn
That's
them
going to be
down.
the name of this podcast.
Just not the bridge that I have to drive on to get home.
And do it in a kind way.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not suggesting, please tell everyone to go jump in a lake. I was just,
kindly burn your bridges.
Yes.
I would put that on a shirt, actually. I'm not even mad at that.
Do we have a permission to put that on a shirt?
Absolutely.
All right.
We're all in the same room, so we each get a third.
Yeah.
That's how this works.
We're all in the room where it's happening.
Yep.
That's what it's about.
We get a third.
That's right. Well, we don't want to keep you too long because we know that you have got sound check to do. You're performing tonight at the Batavia Fine Arts Center. It is going to be just a thrilling show like you have not seen before. Tickets are still available, BataviaFineArtsCenter.org. That's if you're listening to it today, September 9th. If not, this was just a great, fun interview.
Yeah.
And next time you see Shaun Johnson and the Big Band Experience, you will want to see that show no matter what. And who knows, maybe we'll bring him back for Christmas time.
Right.
The holiday show?
Right.
Yes.
You guys are both hired. I don't even know if you're looking for jobs. I'm like, Shaun, you're great, and we're going to have you back. I'm like, gee, Batavia. I'm going to move here.
Well, thank you all for listening while we talked to Shaun Johnson. I am Dominic.
I'm Jenna.
And
I'm Shaun, your new host.
That's right.
We did it.
Thank you all very much. Tickets at BataviaFineArtsCenter.org or 630-937-8930. Have a great day.
We Talk is a production of BFAC On Air.